Lebanon and started losing soldiers while fighting the war with Iran, that would cause two things. First of all, it would make the Israeli forces even more depleted. The Air Force is now busy in Beirut instead of in Tehran. But more than that, that would bring about internal pressure within Israel. And that's how I would read the fact that Hezbollah did nothing but fire 7 rockets. They also fired drones at Cyprus. They're trying to goad everyone to come into the conflict, but they're not actually trying to make it an aerial battle of rockets versus Air Force. They want to draw Israel out. Another thing that indicates that is that unlike in the past, even since the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, when Hezbollah fired rockets, but then said nothing, here they fired rockets and then very publicly said, it's us, we claim responsibility. That's a way to try to goad Israel in, and the only way I can read that is Iran wants Israel to be sinking in the Lebanese mud rather than flying over the skies of Tehran.
Alon is the host of the Israel-Palestine Report. You can follow it on YouTube. Alon, how can people track your coverage and your teachings?
Just like Austin said, follow me on YouTube, Israel-Palestine Report. You can go to my website, alonburstein.com. Online courses that we have, all kinds of summaries of the war. Lots of interviews with Austin that we've been speaking for years and years. Happy to see anyone there.
All right, and I was watching you live last night, taking questions from people in the chat. Good to see you, Alon. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
What we're going to do is we're going to take a quick commercial break, a live look at Capitol Hill on this Monday evening. We're checking in with the FDD's Andrea Stricker in a moment. She's the FDD's non-proliferation expert. We're going to be talking about Iran's nuclear program when we return.
What happened? What happened? Nobody's talking. 6 U.S. soldiers killed now.
You're watching live now. I'm Austin Westfall. Let's continue our Iran coverage. Let's bring in the FDD's non-proliferation expert, Andrea Stricker, she's here. And Andrea joined us a couple nights ago when we were kind of breaking down what little we did know about where Iran's nuclear program stood and where the White House's negotiations about the nuclear program stood. We've learned a little bit more about the White House's discussions with Iranian officials. Axios had some reporting. I know you saw the same stuff that I did, and it was pretty much the officials from the U.S. government speaking anonymously to a group of media members, saying that Iran was rebuilding something called an IR-6 centrifuge manufacturing capability. That's nuclear jargon to me and everybody watching here tonight, Andrea. What is an AR-6 centrifuge, and what is this reporting telling us, if it's true? What does it say about Iran's intentions during the negotiations?
Great to join you again, Austin. So the U.S. officials were briefing reporters about the IR-6 centrifuge, which is Iran's fastest advanced centrifuge. It can produce uranium enriched highly very quickly. So the U.S. had struck those capabilities back in June 2025, eliminating 2 of Iran's key enrichment facilities, the Natanz and the Fordow enrichment sites. And apparently, U.S. officials had seen Iran starting to rebuild the manufacturing capabilities to actually go up to enriched uranium again. And that was factored into their decision to act militarily against Iran.
Okay, so let's talk about the actual intentions. Like Iran and the U.S., they were having these closed-door negotiations. How confident are we that Tehran was using stall tactics with the U.S.?
Well, Steve Witkoff was just on Hannity, I believe, and he was just talking about how Iran came into the negotiations saying that they would never give up enrichment, that they had enough enriched uranium at the 60% level to make up to 11 nuclear weapons. And that continued to be their bottom line, even as the U.S. Navy and the military encircled them. So clearly, they did not take the military threat very seriously, or the regime is simply too ideological and too radical to even contemplate abandoning a quest for nuclear weapons.
Are we now hearing that it's possible that Natanz was hit? You and I were on air last June when the 12-day war was going on. The U.S. struck 3 different Iranian nuclear sites, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. I was seeing some images circulating on social media today. Does it appear that Natanz was hit again?
It does appear that Natanz was hit. This is the site of Iran's enrichment facility that is somewhat below ground. It appears there was a mini strike of sorts on the entrances, so 2 personnel entrances and then a vehicle entrance. The Institute for Science and International Security has the latest imagery of that. So far, Israel and the U.S. have not confirmed striking the facility, but I think their intention with doing this would be to prevent anyone from going in and out, trying to recover destroyed assets. And of course, the U.S. hit it with 2 bunker buster bombs, these 30,000-pound massive ordnance penetrators. So there's probably not a good chance that much survived. But in any case, they must have decided that it was worth hitting the entrances even so.
And still nothing you're hearing that might indicate that any of the other facilities have perhaps been targeted by the U.S.?
There were some reports that perhaps the area of the Esfahan nuclear complex was struck. Thus far, there's no confirmation. There's no change in the satellite imagery of that site. So maybe the U.S. and Israel are gradually moving to the nuclear sites, or perhaps they had just seen some activity at that site that they saw disturbing. In the satellite images, there were images of Iranian vehicles at Natanz just before the strike. And then this morning, we saw the Iranian ambassador to the UN nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, voicing his complaint at the IAEA Board of Governors meeting in Vienna. So the Iranians have been the ones really that have announced that the strike happened. And we're still waiting on CENTCOM, I think, to confirm.
Yeah, CENTCOM's been sending out updates periodically, letting us know exactly what they've been targeting. And I believe you're right. This was the list they put out earlier today. I don't believe it includes any nuclear facilities. So time will tell exactly what they were aiming for there. Live look at the White House, just past 10:30 in the nation's capital. The last question I got to ask you, though, has to do more with Europe. French President Emmanuel Macron announced today that France will increase its nuclear arsenal and, for the first time, allow the temporary deployment of its nuclear-armed aircraft to allied countries. Andrea, why is Macron doing this now? My understanding is that he planned to do this even before the Iran conflict broke out.
Yeah, it is strange timing, in my opinion, because also there is a review conference coming up in April and May for the Nuclear Nonproliferation Treaty. And so any announcement that you're increasing your nuclear arsenal is kind of a red flag to the non-nuclear weapon states, and they will sort of pile on France for this. And then they'll also be upset that the New START treaty between Russia and the US has ended and that China is doing nuclear testing. But I think it really underscores that France is worried about Russian aggression on its eastern borders and is concerned that they may have to send some nuclear weapons to Poland or other allies on that border to show that there is an extended deterrent. And it also kind of shores up their concerns about a lack of a US extended nuclear deterrent over Europe.
We'll be tracking that situation closely. Not to ping pong back to the Middle East, but producer Julie just let me know that we do have the satellite images of Natanz. I'm just curious, Andrea, as we look at satellite images of the area, what can we see? And I know it's a little tough with the untrained eye here, but what lets you know that something happened at this base?
There's two sites where previously we know that they were personnel entrances, so where workers would go and then go down into this facility that's around up to 30 feet below ground. And then there's another vehicle entrance that vehicles can actually drive into. And all three of those were struck. That's all we know so far. And again, it just may be that Iran looked like it was looking to see what might be in the facility. We hadn't seen a great deal of Iranian activity around that site since the June strikes. And perhaps they were wondering if anything survived that they needed to safeguard against future strikes. But the US and Israel clearly were not waiting to see.
Andrea Stricker is a nuclear non-proliferation expert with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, let's hit a quick break. Approaching 10:45 in the nation's capital, approaching 5:45 in the morning in Tel Aviv. Sun slowly starting to come out, getting a little bit brighter out there, Israel Standard Time. Our coverage returning in a moment.
Y'all ready to get drafted? Y'all ready to get drafted?
You're watching Live Now. I'm Austin Westfall. The past 48 hours, we've been asking ourselves, when are we going to hear from the Trump administration themselves about this military operation in Iran, U.S. and Israeli forces continuing day by day to continue their efforts, striking Iranian facilities. In fact, let's pull this list back up. I have this here. It kind of just gives you an idea of the different types of facilities that they've been targeting. That includes command and control centers, IRGC headquarters, aerospace forces headquarters, integrated air defense systems, ballistic missile sites, Navy ships, submarines, missile sites, anti-ship missile sites, and military communications capabilities. The sun slowly coming up in Tel Aviv, and the sun slowly coming up in Beirut, Lebanon as well. The IDF has not only been aiming for targets in Iran. In the past 24 hours, they've also started targeting Hezbollah targets in Beirut, the suburbs of Beirut. That's where this camera is planted. We'll let you know if we see anything in real time. So, earlier this morning, early in the morning, we did hear from Secretary Hegseth, from Dan Kane, in front of the media. They gave an extended press conference, and they did some back and forth. They took questions from the media about this operation. This is the first time the Trump administration has done this. Let's listen into a little bit of this earlier today.
Well, good morning. We just finished an update with Admiral Brad Cooper, the CENTCOM commander, across the CENTCOM AOR, our leadership and troops, as you would expect, doing a fantastic job. 2 days ago, under the direction and direct orders of President Donald J. Trump, the Department of War launched Operation Epic Fury, the most lethal, most complex, and most precise aerial operation in history. For 47 long years, the expansionist and Islamist regime in Tehran has waged a savage, one-sided war against America. They didn't always declare it openly, except for their constant chants of death to America. They did it through the blood of our people. Car bombs in Beirut, rocket attacks on our ships, murders at our embassies, roadside bombs in Iraq and Afghanistan, funded and armed by Iranian Quds Force and IRGC killers. My generation of veterans carry the names of brothers who never came home. Brothers butchered by Iranian-backed roadside bombs and well-armed militias, thousands of our own. We didn't start this war, but under President Trump, we are finishing it. Their war on Americans has become our retribution against their Ayatollah and his death cult. It took the 47th president, a fighter who always puts America first, to finally draw the line after 47 years of Iranian belligerence. He reminded the world, as he has time and time again, being an American means something unbreakable. If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you. President Trump has also been very consistent. Crazy regimes like Iran, hell-bent on prophetic Islamist delusions, cannot have nuclear weapons. It's common sense. Many have said it, but it takes guts to actually enforce it, and our president has guts. Iran's stubborn and self-evident nuclear pursuits, their targeting of global shipping lanes, and their swelling arsenal of ballistic missiles and killer drones are no longer tolerable risks. Iran was building powerful missiles and drones to create a conventional shield for their nuclear blackmail ambitions. Let me say that again. A conventional shield for their nuclear blackmail ambitions. Our bases, our people, our allies, all in their crosshairs. Iran had a conventional gun to our head as they tried to lie their way to a nuclear bomb. It almost worked under Obama and his terrible deal, but not under this president. Turns out the regime who chanted death to America and death to Israel was gifted death from America and death from Israel. This is not a so-called regime change war, but the regime sure did change, and the world is better off for it. Today, in their desperation, the enemy is unmasked. As Iranian missiles and drones rain down indiscriminately on the hotels, airports, apartments, and other civilian targets of their neighbors. Cowardly terrorist tactics from a regime that for decades has trafficked in cowardly terrorist tactics, lies, death, and destruction to this day. The Iranian leadership has built nothing except proxies and missiles and drones and deeply buried nuclear factories and facilities. Peaceful nuclear ambitions do not need to be buried underneath mountains. Last June, Operation Midnight Hammer obliterated their nuclear program to rubble. Afterward, we told them plainly, that's it, now make a deal. They arrogantly refused. We said, rebuild it, and we'll stop you again, this time far worse. Well, President Trump, Secretary Rubio, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, they bent over backwards for real diplomacy, offering pathway after pathway to peace. I watched it. I was there. They tried over and over and over again earnest attempts at peace. The former regime had every chance to make a peaceful and sensible deal. But Tehran was not negotiating. They were stalling, buying time to reload their missile stockpiles and restart their nuclear ambitions. Their goal, hold us hostage, threatening to strike our forces. Well, President Trump doesn't play those games. And as Secretary Rubio said after the Maduro raid, if you don't know, now you know. President Trump puts America and Americans first. He doesn't hesitate, and neither do our troops. The mission of Operation Epic Fury is laser-focused. Destroy Iranian offensive missiles, destroy Iranian missile production, destroy their navy and other security infrastructure, and they will never have nuclear weapons. We're hitting them surgically, overwhelmingly, and unapologetically. With every passing day, our capabilities get stronger and Iran's get weaker. We set the terms of this war, from start to finish. Our ambitions are not utopian. They are realistic, scoped to our interests and the defense of our people and our allies. Speaking of people, we hope the Iranian people take advantage of this incredible opportunity. President Trump has been clear, now is your time. To Iranian security forces, choose wisely. President Trump has also been clear about your fate in either direction. To the media outlets and political left screaming endless wars, stop. This is not Iraq. This is not endless. I was there for both. Our generation knows better, and so does this president. He called the last 20 years of nation-building wars dumb, and he's right. This is the opposite. This operation is a clear, devastating, decisive mission. Destroy the missile threat, destroy the Navy, no nukes. Israel has clear missions as well, for which we are grateful. Capable partners, as we've said since the beginning, capable partners are good partners. Unlike so many of our traditional allies who wring their hands and clutch their pearls, hemming and hawing about the use of force. America, regardless of what so-called international institutions say, is unleashing the most lethal and precise air power campaign in history. B-2s, fighters, drones, missiles, and of course, classified effects. All on our terms, with maximum authorities. No stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise, no politically correct wars. We fight to win, and we don't waste time or lives. As the president warned, an effort of this scope will include casualties. War is hell, and always will be. A grateful nation honors the 4 Americans we have lost thus far and those injured. The absolute best of America. May we prosecute the remainder of this operation in a manner that honors them. No apologies, no hesitation, epic fury for them and the thousands of Americans before them, taken too soon by Iranian radicals. Before I turn it over to General Kane for the operational update, let me speak straight to you, the Joint Force, our warriors on the front lines. This is your moment. This is the generational turning point America has waited for since 1979, and since the rudderless wars of hubris, my generation, our generation, endured. Don't listen to the noise. Just stay focused. Our commander-in-chief is steady at the wheel. We face a determined enemy, but you are better. But we must prove it every single day. History doesn't care if we're tired, if we're scared, or if the fight feels big. It demands warriors who rise anyway. Peace through strength, the warrior ethos, lethality, unity of purpose, those are not slogans. They're the beating heart of what it means to wear the uniform, that uniform. You think clearly under fire, you act decisively in chaos, you uphold the Constitution, and you uphold our country without hesitation. We are not defenders anymore. We are warriors.
Okay, Pete Hegseth wrapping up his remarks there. He does turn it over to General Dan Kane in a moment here. We're approaching the moment where we have to take our final break of the hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to toss to our final break of the hour. We'll play a little bit more of this event out. Looks like they're zooming in on a strike that just happened in Beirut. Let's pull the audio up. I'm curious if we can hear anything. So this camera planted in the suburbs of the largest city in Lebanon. We do know that the IDF has been targeting Hezbollah, and we know that a lot of these strikes have really been taking place in the past 24 hours or so. Alon Burstein said that Hezbollah shot a handful of rockets toward Israel, and now we're seeing some sort of blast. In Beirut. So this is how Live Now works. We get these raw vantage points, and sometimes you do see military activity in real time. And the person who's manning this camera, I don't have direct contact with them. But we've been saying this all night. It's very possible that within the scope of this feed, we see some sort of strike as it happens, and that appears to be what we're looking at right now. Time will tell exactly what we're looking at. We do know that a number of Israeli strikes have happened in the Beirut suburbs in the past 24 hours, so it's likely that that's what has just happened. But I will look through social media, and what I'll do real quick here while we're on this feed, as it's approaching 6 a.m. Beirut time, I'm just going to do a quick search looking at the Israeli Air Force's social channels and the IDF's social channels. See if they have posted that they are actively striking Beirut. Looks like at last check, about an hour ago, the Israeli Air Force said that they intercepted 2 unmanned aerial vehicles that crossed from Lebanon. So certainly Hezbollah very possibly still sending artillery toward Israel. And I have not seen the IDF post anything in the past 5 hours. Whenever there is an imminent threat, usually you'll see those red alerts posted. And right now, I don't see any in recent hours. So again, I'm gonna just stay on this shot for a moment here. It does look like we have some sort of active military operation that just got carried out in this Beirut suburb. So at this point, we have U.S. air and naval operations involving long-range bombers. We have confirmed casualties in Kuwait, Israeli strikes in Beirut, Hezbollah missile attacks on northern Israel, evacuation warnings across the region. I'm just staying on this shot just in case we see anything else happen on this camera. The fighting has intensified between Israel and Hezbollah in recent hours. Israel saying earlier today that it killed the head of Hezbollah's intelligence arm in an overnight strike on Beirut. Israel also said that it targeted Hezbollah command centers and weapons storage facilities in Beirut's southern suburbs. A building that was housing broadcast studios was struck following what the Israeli military described as an evacuation warning. Plumes of smoke have intermittently been seen over parts of Beirut. And of course, when something happens like this in real time, we do not have any immediate casualty details from this specific strike. We also don't know exactly what was targeted. In a statement early this morning, Hezbollah said it called this confrontation a legitimate right. When I say this confrontation, I mean the back and forth that's been going on between Hezbollah figures and the IDF. This arena, northern Israel and southern Lebanon, this arena was very active in 2024, around the time Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, was struck and killed by IDF forces. Shortly after that, a ceasefire was called in that arena, and that ceasefire held for quite some time, and now we've seen an uptick in activity. Hezbollah launching rockets toward Israel in response to the killing of Iran's supreme leader. And I've had the audio up on this camera this entire time, just in case we do hear any other blasts. For now, it appears this is an isolated strike. We've also been keeping a live look at Tel Aviv as well. The reason why we keep an eye on the skies above Tel Aviv is because you never know when we're going to see one of those red alerts called. And Israeli residents evacuated to their bomb shelters as Iranian strikes have become commonplace over the last 48 to 72 hours. For now, the skies remain calm. As I said, the IDF hasn't posted a red alert in some, well, at least 5 hours since the last one I saw posted. Okay, so we just heard another explosion. Let's see if the videographer perhaps pans and sees something. The IDF saying today that it has been aiming for targets to strike the heart of the Hezbollah network so that it can no longer fund terror. Hezbollah, of course, is the strongest Iranian proxy. Its capabilities diminished quite a bit in the aftermath of the October 7th attack, as Israel and Hezbollah really had their own war brewing there for quite a few months. So I see at least one other plume of smoke. The large plume of smoke is now largely out of sight, and there's perhaps a smaller one that I'm eyeballing, but I certainly heard another blast. I haven't seen another dark plume of smoke coming out of the southern Lebanese suburbs. So in the past 24 hours, the IDF says that it eliminated the head of Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters. They say they've been carrying out precise strikes in Beirut. This isn't the first time they've done this. Around the time that they took out Hassan Nasrallah, they were doing this exact same thing. And we were doing this exact same thing, looking at live feeds of the suburbs around Beirut as they target that critical Hezbollah infrastructure. A lot of Hezbollah's infrastructure is in southern Lebanon, but what they've been targeting as of late is in Lebanon's largest city, I should say, the suburbs of Beirut. So what we're going to do here in a moment is take our first commercial break of the hour. I just wanted to make sure that I stuck with this for a moment, just in case we saw anything else happening. Just past 6 a.m. in Beirut. Just past 6 a.m. in Israel as well. The IDF saying earlier today that Hezbollah made a big mistake responding to the killing of Iran's supreme leader. And now the IDF continuing their strikes. We just saw one live on our air. We'll let you know if we see anything else. Let's head away for a quick break. We'll be right back.
Who is Hezbollah? Look up who's Hezbollah. Oh, so like another Hamas and Taliban and ISIS, whatever.
It's been a busy day. Fox's Jennifer Griffin, she's Fox's Pentagon correspondent. She's been tracking the latest. Here's her recap of the day.
As dawn crept up across the Central Command AOR, the skies surged to life.
More than 100 U.S. warplanes launched simultaneously from land and sea. Refueling tankers, electronic attack bombers, and unmanned drones flew toward Iran in a synchronized wave. 4 B-2 bombers made a 37-hour round trip from their base in Missouri to drop dozens of 2,000-pound bombs on underground missile sites. And overnight, B-1 bombers carrying 75,000 pounds of munitions flew 34 hours round trip from their bases in South Dakota. In just 48 hours, the U.S. and Israel achieved air superiority, taking out all of Iran's Russian and Chinese air defense systems.
This air superiority will not only enhance the protection of our forces, but also allow them to continue the work over Iran.
CENTCOM says it sank 11 of Iran's Navy vessels, part of its goal to destroy Iran's Navy. It may take weeks to eliminate Iran's missile stockpiles and mobile missile launchers. But in eliminating key parts of the regime, the mission is ahead of schedule, according to President Trump.
We also projected 4 weeks to terminate the military leadership, and as you know, that was done in about an hour, so we're ahead of schedule there by a lot.
3 U.S. F-15 fighter jets were shot down overnight in a friendly fire incident when Kuwaiti air defense systems mistakenly fired on them. 6 American pilots evacuated and are now safe.
This was our last best chance to strike what we're doing right now and eliminate the intolerable threats posed by this sick and sinister regime. Our objectives are clear.
This is not Iraq. This is not endless. Our generation knows better, and so does this president. He called the last 20 years of nation-building wars dumb.
This work is just beginning and will continue.
Secretary Hegseth said this is not a regime change operation, which begs the question, what happens if the Iranians are left with the remnants of the past regime? He and the president both have not ruled out putting boots on the ground. General Kane said today more forces are on their way to the Middle East. In Washington, Jennifer Griffin, Fox News.
All right, let's hit a quick break. We'll be right back.
Whoa. That's Catalina. Why are they showing Catalina? Oh wow, they finally finished building the casino. They've been building that casino for like the past 20 years.
You're watching live now. I'm Austin Westfall. We continue to track the developments in the Middle East. Of course, this conflict rapidly developing across the Middle East, where U.S. and Israeli military operations against Iran have expanded into a broader regional conflict involving multiple fronts, number of nation states being impacted as Iran has retaliated. And in some capacities, those retaliations impacting some of their neighbors on the Gulf. Live look at Beirut, Lebanon, where we just saw a strike take place in real time. Just past 6 a.m. in Lebanon, and a live look at Tel Aviv, 6 a.m. there as well. The sun now coming up in the Middle East. Let's bring in Brian Stern. Brian's the chairman and founder of Gray Bull Rescue. And Brian, we've been tracking this story from every angle that we possibly can. I'll let you take it from here. What is Gray Bull Rescue's primary objective? I know you're just landing in the Middle East recently yourself.
Yeah, Grable Rescue's mission is to rescue and evacuate American citizens from war zones, conflict zones, and natural disasters. We just completed our 804th mission just this week in Mexico against the cartels, and now here we are back in the Middle East again. We've done operations in Lebanon, Syria, Israel, Gaza, all over the place. So we're no stranger to this part of the world. And we're no stranger to these kinds of conflicts. There's lots of Americans that are here. There's lots of Americans throughout the region, the Emirates and Dubai and Abu Dhabi, of course, Israel, of course, Kuwait, of course, Jordan, and other places. So we're here to help get them out. The airspace is all the airspace here is either closed or thinking about closing. There's very little airspace that's clean at the moment. So we're working very hard to get people out. We have ground options, air options, and maritime options, and it's interesting to understand. We're donor funded. We don't charge people money. So we live and die based off the donations of generous Americans. If you're an American and you're in trouble and you need help, go to grablerescue.org, do request assistance, and we'll come for you. That's also where people can go, grablerescue.org, to give help. And people really need it out here. People are dying.
So talk to us about the travel constraints, the restrictions that people are facing. If an organization like Grable is rescuing people from the area, what have you noticed? What have you heard talking to people in the region? Are commercial flights being canceled or delayed? And really, what kind of challenges are people facing there right now?
Well, as an example, here in Israel, the airport is closed. There's missiles flying in the sky. We had missile alerts just a little bit ago where I am. So there's missiles flying. There's drones flying. Israeli anti-aircraft is great, but it's not perfect. All the airports, all the airspace in Israel are closed completely. So if you're an American here in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem or wherever else, there is no way to get out safely by air. So that means land. Now you're going from Israel into a neighboring country like Jordan. Jordan just got hit last night. So very quickly, you find yourself in this kind of checkmate situation. And that's really where we come into play. Is we understand the environment. We know how to do this. This is what we do. Well, I was just talking to a church group that's here, staying in the same hotel that I'm in, and they're really struggling and they're scared to death. And they have some young kids with them. They also have some really elderly people with them, and they're very scared. This is scary stuff. It's not like what you see on TV.
We're looking at some videos and photos that you guys sent in. You know, if you can, just kind of expand on the need out there. How much demand is there for people who need saving this week?
Yeah, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people registering with us, and it's again, it goes back to the idea that we're a nonprofit. We have literally hundreds and hundreds of people asking for support, but we're really only limited by funding. You know, we're flying around, we're doing our thing, we're tired, we're hungry, our legs are swollen, we've all got cankles, but this is what we do. But we can't do what we do. We can't do what we do without public support. Sadly, we get no help from the government. We don't even get a thank you note from the government, let alone $1. We do this all ourselves. So if you're an American and you're stuck, you're scared to death because you've probably never been through this before. And it's a very humbling experience taking missile fire and drone fire. I've taken a lot of missile fire the last couple of years, and there's really nothing to do. We don't even run to the bomb shelters because, frankly, they probably won't help you anyway with a direct hit.
Brian Stern is the chairman and founder of Grable Rescue. Stay safe out there. Thanks for the time.
Thanks so much. Please donate, grablerescue.org. Please donate. We need your help.
What we're going to do next is we're going to head to a quick break, a live look at Tel Aviv. I'm going to be keeping an eye on social media. As Brian alluded to, it is not uncommon for us to hear about red alerts. It's not uncommon for us to hear of imminent missiles in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and of course, northern Israel as well, as we've been tracking developments in Beirut throughout the hour. All right, let's hit that break. We'll be right back.
Man, that's crazy, bro. All right, y'all. That's enough news for me.